Good. Just getting a little hot. That will work. Pull that off so I can get a little bit put one on the other end. Quenching some little itty bitty knives this morning. So for doing that, I'll use this cooking oil for these little ones. So I only need to harden up an inch or two of it. Boy, the next one will be hard. So I'm going to run that. It doesn't really matter that I didn't get this quenched all the way because I'm going to run that temper back on that before I do anything else. So morning, everybody. We're doing some pickup work around here. It has been quiet in this shop. There's a lot of people worried. I've had some quiet springs before, but this one takes the cake. So now we're going to harden these two up. Pretty hot. We'll let that oil cool down a little bit. We'll kill. I love cheese. All right. So let's finish our forms. Hello. Good morning. So 3 days ago, we had 20 inches of snow here. This morning, we have none. Something called a Chinook that we get in this part of the country. It's literally gone except for the stacks. Roads are dry. My driveway is dry. Yesterday, you could have swam between the road and the front of this building. Quench that off. 2 down, 1 to go. What am I doing here? This blacksmith shop smells like popcorn now. Morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. put one more little mountain divot in that sucker. Our little circles for our branding irons this morning. Here. All this little pickup. The KA is still broken. I took the broken piece from yesterday and I took it down to the local plumber that I use, plumber shop, and he didn't have any Schedule 80 pipe in there. So he had to order a piece, and I'm going to call him this afternoon, and he's going to get me the replacement pieces, and then I'll put them in. Life, I'm a blacksmith. But I use the KA a lot anyway, or I use the treadle hammer anyway. That's awesome. Well, that's good to know. I will follow you on here. Let's see if I can. I love my KA, so I'm going to pin that. Let's see. I bought my 8K or my KA in 2008. So I've had it almost 20 years. So I would love to have another. Just saying. So when you guys get ready to get your up and running, I would love to have another KA. I'd like to get one, put it in the place of this one while I get this one rebuilt, and then have two. One specifically for doing knives and stuff like that, and then having one for doing the drawer pulls and that stuff. This KA has done over 3,000 of these horseshoe drawer pulls. I know there's some guys out there that use their KA more than I do, but not much more. And the tooling is so easy to build for. That's cool. I'll follow you. So, what happens is that piece of pipe that feeds into the bottom of the ram, they just wear out. When you use the tool as much as I do, what ends up happening is the threads strip off of it, and you got to replace them. And I've replaced I guess that would be the down one on this, I don't know, maybe 3 times in 18 years. So not that big of a deal. I did upgrade the valve here about 8 or 10 years ago. And of course, I replaced the springs. The hoses give out, but I've changed and I use an easier, if you guys want to know what we're talking about this K75 air hammer right here. So, this little devil. But this hammer needs rebuilt really badly, but I can't really go without it. So I need to get another one, or I'm going to have to go on vacation, rebuild this one or something. Because this son of a gun has been hauled everywhere. I had it on the back of a trailer and ran it on the back of a trailer. It ran in the back of my horse trailer down in Arizona. I mean, this son of a gun has been used. In the cold weather, in the hot weather. Good thing about them is they're super easy to work on. Yeah, it's a single blow. The good thing about it is they're very, very adjustable. It almost works more like a press than it does as a power hand. So for doing real meticulous stuff, they work really, really great. They take quite a bit of air if you're doing cyclical stuff. But for me doing the knife, virtually all the knife blades that I do go through here. And it's very easy to control them. You can hit light, you can hit hard, and they take up virtually no room. I think it's got an 18-inch footprint on it. And you got to have a compressor in your shop anyway. So if I was going to do something different, I would definitely get a bigger compressor. I'm running it on a 3-horse compressor. I would get a 5-horse. And I would have maybe put a little bigger gulp tank in. I've got a 10-gallon gulp tank, which works fine, but I'm getting a little blow by from the rams. The guides need to be replaced. I mean, it's been a tool that's been used hard for 20 years. The good thing is they're pretty easy to rebuild. So I would definitely recommend one for some stuff. Like I said, they aren't for every kind of blacksmithing, but for what I do in here, they work great. It works great. I've designed a lot of my work around a KA. We're doing 3 of the same brand in iron. Yeah, they really are pretty fantastic. At this point in my business, would I like to have a maybe electric, like a tire, like an Appalachian hammer or a tire hammer? Maybe. I built this one over here and it worked pretty good, but it was kind of proof of concept. And we didn't bother to put any bushings or anything in it. And so the first thing I did is I wore the bushings out. So now at some point, we're going to rebuild it and I'm going to go ahead and put we're going to put bearings and bushings in it. So it works fine. I didn't want anything tall. I wanted something that would lay kind of sit low on the ground, so I didn't have to worry about it tipping over where I had to bolt it down. I leased the shop, and my landlord he gets apoplectic if you're drilling holes in the floor of the shop. So Jeff, my buddy Jeff, and I, and you can watch this if you want to go watch this. We built this little power hammer here, and I used it so much I wore it out. But we're going to redesign it because of the short spring. It doesn't have much whip, and so we're going to use a long spring and run it more like an Appalachian hammer, where the center point is in the middle of the spring. That way, you get a little bit more. But it's still nice and low. You don't have to worry about it tipping over. So if I need to move a lot of material, but what I really use, like the KA, I don't know how many of these I've done on the KA. Hundreds and hundreds of these on the KA. And these too. I don't know how many of these I've done on the KA. You know, the thing about the KA is, for some stuff, it works really great. If you're doing small axes like this, it works really good, where you don't have a big, where when you drive the drift through it, you know, you get your tooling on there, you can use a short drift. If you got to get a big piece of tall tooling in the KA, it doesn't work very good. But for doing small stuff, for doing all that delicate stuff, if you need to hold something down and twist it, you can just hold your foot down on the pedal, and the weight will drop down onto your work, and then you can twist it or readjust. It took me about 5 years to really learn how to run it. I did knock the shit out of myself one time with it. Because I'd never really run a power hammer much. And so when you're using a power hammer like that, you use a tool, right? You got a tool on it. And the trick is you want to make sure that your handle is pretty straight, especially if you're using a tall tool. And what I did is I got underneath that son of a gun, and I had a tool that had a big elbow in it. And I had that sucker laying under there like that, and I touched that power hammer, and that tool came up and went. And when I opened my eyes, I was looking at the ceiling. And then I started using wire for my like 1/4 inch or 5/16 round stock for my handles, so I could get a hold of that son of a gun, and if it tipped over, I could. I might be dumb, but I'm a quick learner. Yeah, and that's what I've got this KA sitting on. I've got it sitting on a big blue lamp on a piece of concrete. It works out. And then I got it all at the same height as the rest of this. This was kind of my original blacksmithing when I moved around a lot. Well, I'm glad you came into the live, because I have done so much work with the KA. And I don't know if you know it or not, but on Facebook, I have a page called the Kick-Ass Power Hammer Pounders or something. And it's kind of a resource for everybody who's working on their own. I don't know, it's got, 500 or 800 members in it. And so it's a good resource for people to go to. But if you're going to start posting videos of KAs and tooling and stuff, I will absolutely tag you, and I'll start resharing those KA videos, because, you know, for me, I got the KA, and that's been 20 years ago, and so the internet was really new, and nobody had even heard of a KA, and I'd never seen one. So I was in Utah at the time. I'd never even seen a KA. I bought one sight unseen. At some point, I'm going to do some more spur videos. I'd like to do some rasp spurs, but I'm just kind of surviving right now. This time of year in this blacksmith shop, it's pretty tight. And so we'll see what happens. I might do some spur videos. like I said, I'd like to do some rasp spurs, and I want to do some that have flames on them. So I'm working on a design right now. About every night, I'm working on this flame design that I want to put on the side of my rasp spurs. Yeah. I looked at the Coal Iron Works presses. I looked at one. And I don't know, I might go that way, but the great thing about it, I've already got all the tooling built for the KA. So it'd be really great to have a second. And somebody posted one on the Facebook page for sale, but it was clear in Virginia. And it was brand new. It was brand new old stock that the guy had. He hadn't even ever set it up. I thought, man, if I had $5,000, which I don't. There's going to be a little tweaking, but we'll get there. I've got, you got to dig deep on my channel, but I've got a bunch of videos on doing spurs. But you got to go way down, like doing the buttons and stuff like that. I've got a bunch of videos from back 10 years ago. The video quality is very good because I was filming them on a 10-year-old phone. But I've got quite a few videos on it. I've probably made 30 pairs of spurs. This was the latest ones I did, and when I welded the shank on the second one, I wasn't happy with the way it turned out, so I made it into a door knocker. But that's my typical. I had a whole bunch of these bands cut out. I got like a 5-gallon bucket of them cut out. I've got a bunch of videos on how easily cut spur rowels and all kinds of stuff on there. But if you have any questions about doing spurs, you can just put it in the comments, and I will of the videos, and I will happily answer them. like that bend, so we're going to keep it in there. Oh. I'm not big into making the massive knives, but I've always wanted to make a pair of pattern welded spurs. But what I really would like to do is figure out, and I've never taken the time to do it, is figure out the steel and copper. You know, I do copper and silver, but to do steel and copper and make a set of spurs out of that would be good. Well, we're going to do a couple of. Well, I've got this sucker hot. I'm going to go ahead and quench up the other couple more of these knife blanks. Well, we got this. What is the Facebook group? It's called the KA75 Kick-Ass Power Hammer Pounders, or Power, Kick-Ass Power Hammer Pounders. That's what it's called. If you go to my Facebook page, you can look and see it. But there's a bunch of videos on there. I started that page. Boy, I don't know. I've been thinking about starting a Reddit one and just taking the videos off of the Facebook page and rolling them over to the Reddit. Good morning. Hello. We're talking about power hammers and KA75 power hammers. I think it was the right decision for me to make to buy that hammer. The bad part about them is they do not like to run in the cold. And for a long time, I didn't have a heated shop. But now that I've been in this shop, man, that son of a gun works fantastic. But you can see some of all my videos on my YouTube. You can go back and look at how I originally had it plumbed, and as far as lubricating oil that goes, I use Marvel's Mystery Oil now, which is the same thing that I used when we were doing air tools in the oil field when I worked in the oil field. So we use a lot of Marvels. And it smells good. You guys want to see this probably. Okay, A word on safety for all 54 people that are watching this. I'm using, this is just for these little mini neck knives I'm doing. I'm using corn oil. And you can see that I have it in a metal coffee can. Do not be, and that is a very minimal amount. I use this little can because a lot of times I'm doing punches and pritchels, and I'm only hardening up the first couple of inches, and this little can is really easy. I have a great big can. I got a big milk can that I use, but it's essential. It is essential that you do not use a glass container and you do not use a plastic container, because I guarantee that if I were to quench 3 knives in this bucket, the oil will get hot enough that it will catch on fire. And so when that catches on fire, now you have a flaming, smoking, hot mess coming out of the top of that can. And so in order to keep that from happening, you have to have something to put it out. And the only way to put it out is to smother it, because of course you can't put water on it, right? So you have to be able to smother it out. So you want to use a metal can with a metal lid that you can close and seal up and get the oxygen out of it, and to get the fire out. It's going to happen. If you do it enough, it's going to happen. But the can I usually use is a milk can or a cream can, and so it's got a sealable lid. But don't ever use glass. Don't ever use a plastic container. Don't be trying to quench stuff. Don't be trying to quench stuff in a plastic coffee can or a 5-gallon bucket. Do not do that. I have personally been in a shop and watched this catastrophe unfold. A guy was hardening. He was resharpening chisel heads for a pneumatic chisel, and he had done about 3 or 4 of them in this 5-gallon plastic 5-gallon bucket of oil, and he was on about number 4 or number 5. The hot oil was definitely getting hot. He dropped the piece of work that he was trying to quench to the bottom of the bucket. It melted through the bucket, and now he had a pool of hot oil across the floor of his shop. Well, eventually the chisel head melted through the bucket and flopped down, and now it had caught the oil on fire. So now he had a flaming pool of oil all over his shop. And how do you put that out? You got to have a wool blanket in your shop. I have 3 wool blankets in this shop and several fire extinguishers. But the way to put a fire out like that is with a blanket, with a wool blanket, and smother it out. You can use a fire extinguisher, but that makes a hell of a mess. But you got to be prepared. So that's my little take on safety. Now these are forged out of files. So I'm going to run that. I don't really care about the temper on the tang, because I'm going to get a torch and I'll run the heat back out of that, and I'll take any hardness that happened to show up in that handle on that. I'll take it out, and then I'll put these in the oven, and we'll temper them back after I get them polished up. On these little knives like this, I don't get quite so worried about it, but they are cute. When they start getting this big, that's a little more than I can do with this corn oil. When they get a little longer like that, that's a little too much mass on there, and you're taking a chance. Now I know that is going to be hot. Hello, good morning. Yeah, I'll guarantee that oil is hot. We're going to go set it someplace safe. Make sure you got a good exit strategy. And then here's my quenching tank. So this is a cream can. This is a cream can, and it's full of Husky Oil Company 30 weight motor oil. And there's better quenching oils out there, but this is how I do it. And the reason I do that is the oil in this can probably came out of the ground not more than 5 miles from where I'm standing. And that's pretty damn cool. So I'm making the knives in Wyoming out of rasps that were used on horses in Wyoming, and I'm quenching them in oil that came out of the ground in Wyoming. Doesn't get any more Wyoming than that. But here, this is a really good quenching tank. I prefer to quench my knives vertically. I do not like to do quenches horizontally. I do them up and down. And so this tank works really, really well for that. Again. It's got a sealable lid. Hello. So it works really good. Now I would generally, if I was getting serious about this and I was doing some big heavy duty knives, I'd preheat this oil a little bit. I'd get it up to, I don't know, to where you couldn't, where it's uncomfortable to put your hand on it. But we're doing these little knives that I'm doing for the tourists, and I ain't gonna worry about it. Yeah. Well, this was a cream can, and when I bought it, it had a sight glass in it. That's what this is. There was a sight glass. I welded it shut. I took the glass out and welded it shut. But somewhere I have, my dad's got a couple of these that actually came from my grandpa's farm, and they have his brand on them. We'll move this over so you can kind of see what I'm doing here. There, you can see it. So when I harden these blades, I'm going to make sure that I flip them over. Because you can actually get one of these blades where it's hard on one side and soft on the other. And so I want to make sure that the heat gets all the way through that blade and the whole blade is the same temperature. And there's nothing like going to drill a blade, like drill the handles in a blade, and you get halfway through the handle and your drill bit snaps off because it's hard on one side, not hard on the other. I don't make those kind of mistakes anymore. I've changed the process that I do now, how I make these knives, so I don't, those kind of mistakes don't happen anymore. But it comes with learning and doing 1,000 knives. Rags. You can always tell a blacksmith because they don't ever have any hair on their hand reaching into that forge. I do have a vent fan on, an exhaust fan that is exhausting all of this smoke out of here. It takes about 2 minutes to exhaust this whole building. So that's hard all the way through. So what I'll do is I'll go back in here and I'll take the hardness out of this handle, and then we'll temper the blade back. But I'll go ahead and try to get this handle dead soft. That keeps it from breaking. So thank you. Days and days if I'm only running it while I'm using it. I'll get a week or better out of that tank. It's a 10-gallon tank. So when I quench those, I put them in that way, and I make sure that I'm moving the blade in this direction, not this direction. Because if you move the blade this direction, you take the chance of bending your blade, getting a warp in your blade. And once you've quenched it, that's going to have that shape. So that's part of the reason I quench this way, because I have a lot less warpage in my blades if I quench them vertically instead of horizontally. See, I've got a little twist in this one. Now I got to start again. You can make like little racks to go inside your forge to hold your blades up to keep them twisting. I don't mess with it too much. Yeah. When I use the little can, a lot of times what I'm doing is I'm making little tools like this. This is a center punch that I make, and I make these out of truck spring. And you only really want, on a center punch, you only really want about that much hard. So that little coffee can of oil works really good at doing small stuff like that. Chisels, those small chisels and stuff. Hello. Like doing all these little chisels. These ones are made out of the valves out of a truck. Those are engine valves. And man, you want to talk about some tough steel. Holy moly. I don't know what that steel is, but it is ridiculous. You can't hardly forge it. It is some tough ass stuff. But for doing little, like doing engravers and edgers, like little engravers like that, man, it works good for that. I mean, that you can't hardly burn it. It is so hard, you can't hardly burn it. Thanks for the likes, I appreciate it. Yeah, that's one of my little engravers that I made. All right, let's try this knife again. Straighten out. When you're doing it like this, you're going to get different hardnesses on your knives because as you heat up the steel, the viscosity of the oil changes. And so as the oil gets more fluidy, more less viscosity, it's going to change the hardness of your knives. So if you're doing a bunch of knives in order, the knives that you want really, really super hard, you would wait, I guess. Or I guess it'd be the other way around. If you want them really hard, you do those first because the oil will be cold. As the oil heats up, it doesn't, these are the little sharp finger style knives that I do. I sell so many of these. I've done hundreds and hundreds of these. So we did what, four or five little knives in that one? And it's just now getting to where it's a different temperature than the outside. But seriously, you guys, do not be messing around with plastic buckets or glass jars. Do not do that. You shouldn't really have any plastic in your shop at all. Like I've eliminated all the plastic fiberglass handles from every hammer I have. I just don't have any of that around because what happens with a plastic or a fiberglass handle, I guess I do have one. It's bad. But what happens on these son of a guns is if you happen to set that on something, it'll melt that handle out wherever that touches, right? Like that. You touch that, that's hot. You touch that, that'll melt up. And that son of a gun will be sharp like a razor blade. And so the next time you go to touch that son of a gun, you get a hold of it and you'll cut the hell out of yourself from the plastic handle. So I do not use plastic handle tools in my shop. I pretty much eliminated them. And anything that it's pretty amazing around here to have anything that isn't. Pretty much every tape measure in this shop has got a place where it's burned off, where the paint's burned off of it because you're measuring something. I'm sure that's what that's from. A little burn spot. So to combat that, I made myself up metal rulers. So, all right, so I'll show you these knives that I got done. So these are hardened, but they are not tempered. Okay, so we're going to have to take some of the hardness out, especially like on these rasp knives. That son of a gun is so hard, if I was to drop it, it'd probably break. That's how hard these file knives get. If you take the chance of knocking the tip off of it right now, dropping it. The rasp knives, not so much. They are using different steel in these rasp knives now, and so they don't get quite so hard as they used to. But they still make a serviceable knife, and everybody likes them. It's kind of poor man Damascus. But I do quite a few of these little, I don't know, they call them blacksmith knives or Viking knives. I've never seen a Viking use a knife like that because it's very wasteful of the steel. But they're kind of cool. Everybody likes them. There's kind of a nice little one. That's the tang out of a horseshoe and rasp. When you use the tang, it kind of saves a lot of forging. I can get about 4 or 5. I can get about 4, 5 knives out of a big horseshoe and rasp. And they're getting to a place now where they're getting a little hard to get for me around here. All of a sudden, there's a ton of blacksmiths around that are also using rasps for stuff. So, okay, knives. Project done. Hardening knives. Here's one I finished up earlier. Thanks for the likes, everybody. I really appreciate it. And this is a forge weld in there. They depend. The knives run anywhere depending on what you want. Like those little ones will be about $100 with a custom sheath for them. They go up to about 300 just depending on what you want. And I would show you some of the ones I have finished, but now my hands are all oily and I got the leather done and I don't want to touch them. Because once I touch the leather, it gets nasty. So I don't want to touch the finished stuff I have. So, but I've got a few around. You can go to the Etsy store and check them out if you want to. I generally don't put the little ones on the Etsy store. I might maybe put some of these on the Etsy store. We'll see. I think this little hatchet tomahawk is going to go on the Etsy store probably. And traditionally, that's the traditional size of one. What they were. Just a piece of oak handle that I actually made myself this morning. I should have filmed it, I guess, using this draw knife that I made. So I use this draw knife to make this handle mostly. So here's a little draw knife that I made. But yeah, that's going on there. Little traditional tomahawk. Then I've got one here. Not quite so traditional. I mean, I guess it's kind of traditional. It's more got I don't know what I was thinking. I guess I was thinking Viking. I don't sell a lot of these online because they're just a little too long to get in a flat rate box. They just don't fit in a flat rate box very good. And so I don't tend to sell them online. This one I could get in a flat rate. I'd probably sell this one online. This is a cute little hatchet. I might just keep this one for myself for a little while. I think probably that was more traditionally what you saw. These came later. This style. But see, that's forge welded, and there's a big old forge weld in there. There you can see the forge weld where I forge welded the bit in. Something like that, probably with the shipping, like $125. It cost me $25 to ship it. And this one probably about the same. Because the shipping is just ridiculous on these now. One of those flat rate boxes, it's almost $30 to mail one now. So anyway, yeah. So I wonder if my steel has cooled down from my branding iron furnace. Yes, they are. So I'm welding up some branding irons in a bit. So, all right. Nobody wants to watch me cut these and weld these up. So I'm going to go over to the welding station and the cutting station, and I'm going to cut these up. I might come back later once I get them finished. I got to figure out if she wants handles on them or not. I'm doing 3 of the exact same. And if she wants handles on them, then I'll come back and I'll forge the handles up, and I'll probably do that during the live. So if you're not subscribed and hitting the notification, you might want to set up for that. And if you really want to support me and all of the free information that I give, it'd be really great if you go to the Etsy stores and order something. That'd be great. Or become a member to the channel, or just go watch some of my videos. That would be great. Because I get paid, the live streams pay nothing. And my videos pay about 20 cents per 1,000 views. So I'm not making a living at it. I'd like to get to a place where I was, and then I'm going to offer some classes. We're going to do some knife making classes online, but I got to get to where it's actually paying for itself first. So, but thanks everybody. Get hot and headed. Always wear safety squints. If you like the content, you know what to do. Share it and all of that stuff. And we'll catch you later.